Imagine discovering an ancient story that describes a bridge across the sea. And then, thousands of years later, satellites reveal a chain of land connecting the exact same two countries. Coincidence? Ancient engineering? Or simply nature creating an illusion powerful enough to inspire one of humanity's greatest epics? For billions of people, the Ramayana is not just literature. It is history, it is faith, it is a guide to life. Yet for historians and scientists, it presents one of the most fascinating questions in the ancient world. Did the events of the Ramayana really happen? Can archaeology, geology, astronomy, and history uncover traces of the story? Or is the truth far more complex than either believers or skeptics imagine? Today, we're setting aside assumptions. We're not here to prove the Ramayana. We're not here to disprove it. Instead, we're going to investigate it, using evidence, tradition, and modern research to see what we actually know and what remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary stories are the ones that refuse to fit into simple answers. To understand this mystery, we first need to understand why the Ramayana is unlike almost any other epic ever written. Traditionally attributed to Maharshi Valmiki, the Ramayana is one of the oldest surviving epics in human civilization. It contains nearly 24,000 verses divided into 7 Khan, telling the story of Sri Ram, the prince of Ayodhya, whose life changes forever when he willingly accepts 14 years of exile to honor his father's promise. Joined by his wife, Sita, and his loyal brother, Lakshmana, what begins as a journey through forests slowly transforms into one of the greatest adventures in world literature. There are friendships forged through hardship, kingdoms divided by betrayal, acts of unimaginable devotion, and ultimately a war fought not merely for a kingdom, but for justice itself. Whether viewed as history, philosophy, or sacred literature, the Ramayana has shaped Indian civilization for more than 2,000 years. Its influence extends far beyond India. Thailand's national epic, the Ramakien, draws its inspiration from Sri Ram. The walls of Angkor Wat in Cambodia depict scenes from the epic in remarkable detail. Across Indonesia, elaborate Ramayana performances continue to captivate audiences, despite the country being home to the world's largest Muslim-majority population. From Nepal to Laos, from Myanmar to Bali, countless cultures embraced this story and made it their own. Think about that for a moment. Empires disappeared, languages evolved, religions spread across continents. Yet the Ramayana survived every one of those changes. Why? Because it is a beautiful story? Certainly. But could there be another reason? Could generations have believed they were preserving the memory of something real? That question brings us to our first clue. Unlike many myths set in imaginary lands, the Ramayana unfolds across places that still exist today. Its journey begins in Ayodhya, one of India's oldest continuously inhabited cities. From there, the path leads to Chitrakoot, where Sri Ram spends part of his exile surrounded by forests and rivers that still attract pilgrims today. The story then moves through the vast wilderness traditionally identified as Dandakaranya, a region stretching across parts of central India. Further south lies Panchavdi, associated with present-day Nashik, where one of the most dramatic turning points of the epic takes place. The journey continues to Kishkindha, believed by many to correspond with the spectacular boulder-strewn landscape around modern Hampi in Karnataka. Finally, it reaches Rameshwaram, standing at the edge of the Indian Ocean. Even today, millions of devotees visit these places, believing they are walking in the footsteps of Sri Ram. At first glance, this seems remarkable, an ancient epic describing real locations across hundreds of kilometers. Could this be evidence that the journey itself actually happened? It's an intriguing possibility, but historians urge caution. Real places do not automatically prove historical events. Consider the city of Troy. For centuries, many believed it existed only in Homer's imagination. Then archaeologists discovered its ruins. The city was real, but that discovery alone did not prove that every duel, every conversation, and every heroic act described in the Iliad unfolded exactly as written. Ancient literature often weaves together real landscapes and unforgettable stories. The same could be true of the Ramayana. Finding Ayodhya confirms that Ayodhya exists. Finding Chitrakoot confirms that Chitrakoot exists. But history asks a different question. Can these places independently verify the events described within the epic? That answer is far more difficult. And nowhere is this mystery greater than at the southern edge of India. Between India and Sri Lanka lies one of the most debated geographical formations in the world. Known as Ram Setu, this chain of limestone shoals stretches across the shallow waters of the Pak Jaladamru Madhya. From the ground, it appears as scattered sandbanks and reefs. But from space, the view is extraordinary. Satellite images reveal what looks remarkably like the remains of a narrow land bridge connecting the two countries. For many people, seeing these images for the first time is unforgettable. Because according to the Ramayana, this is exactly where Sri Ram and the Vanar army crossed the sea to reach Lanka. The epic tells us that, under the guidance of the engineer Null, an enormous bridge was constructed stone by stone, allowing an entire army to march across the ocean. It is one of the most iconic scenes in Indian tradition. Naturally, people began asking whether the formation visible today could actually be that bridge. Modern geology offers an important piece of the puzzle. Scientists generally conclude that Ram Setu is a naturally formed chain of limestone shoals, coral formations, and accumulated sediments created by changing sea levels and coastal processes over thousands of years. In other words, the existence of the formation itself can be explained without requiring human construction. But that doesn't make the story disappear. In fact, it raises even more questions. Could ancient people have noticed this natural chain of shallow islands and incorporated it into their traditions? Could sections have been reinforced or used as crossing points in the distant past? Or did the epic preserve the memory of an ancient coastline that looked very different from the one we see today? At present, there is no widely accepted archaeological evidence demonstrating that the structure was engineered by humans. Another claim often circulates online, that NASA officially declared Ram Setu to be a man-made bridge. This is false. NASA has released satellite images because the formation is clearly visible from space, but it has never concluded that it was built by an ancient civilization. Separating genuine scientific findings from internet myths is essential if we want to understand the real mystery, because the true mystery is already fascinating enough. A real geological formation exists precisely where one of the world's oldest epics describes a crossing into Lanka. Whether that connection represents history, coincidence, cultural memory, or something else entirely remains an open question. And just when it seems we've reached the limits of what Earth can tell us, another clue appears. Not beneath the soil, not beneath the sea, but written across the night sky itself. Could the stars reveal when the story of the Ramayana took place? Or do they deepen the mystery even further? That's where our investigation continues. Could the stars reveal when the story of the Ramayana took place? At first, the idea sounds almost impossible. How could the night sky help us investigate an ancient epic? The answer lies within the text itself. The Valmiki Ramayana contains several descriptions of planetary positions, constellations, and celestial events. Ancient astronomers carefully observed the sky, and some researchers believe these descriptions may preserve genuine astronomical observations. Using modern software, they have attempted to recreate the ancient sky exactly as it would have appeared thousands of years ago. The results are fascinating. Some calculations suggest dates around 5100 BCE. Others point to 7300 BCE. Some produce entirely different timelines. So why can't researchers agree? Because these calculations depend on how individual verses are interpreted. Ancient manuscripts contain variations, certain descriptions may be symbolic, and the same planetary configuration can sometimes be interpreted in multiple ways. Astronomy can test whether a particular sky was possible, but it cannot prove that the events themselves occurred. The stars may provide clues, but history asks for evidence that can be independently verified, and that brings us to archaeology. Over the last century, Archaeologists have studied many regions associated with the Ramayana. Excavations around Ayodhya and other ancient settlements confirm something important. These places have been inhabited for thousands of years. They were real centers of human civilization long before many famous kingdoms of the ancient world. But archaeology has also revealed the limits of what it can tell us. No inscription has been discovered that unquestionably identifies Sri Ram as a historical ruler. No royal record has independently described the war with Ravana. No archaeological discovery has confirmed the construction of Ram Setu by an ancient army. To some, that may sound disappointing, yet historians often point out that the ancient world survives only in fragments. Most buildings were made from materials that decay. Wood disappears. Palm leaf manuscripts deteriorate. Floods reshape landscapes. Entire cities vanish beneath forests, deserts, or rivers. History is not a complete record of the past. It is the small portion that managed to survive. And sometimes, what survives is not stone, but memory. Long before books were common, India developed one of the most sophisticated oral traditions in human history. Teachers memorized enormous bodies of knowledge with extraordinary precision. Students repeated them word for word, generation after generation. This system preserved the Veda for centuries before they were written down. Many scholars believe the Ramayana also passed through this remarkable oral tradition before reaching its written form. That doesn't guarantee every event happened exactly as described, but it reminds us that ancient societies had powerful ways of preserving knowledge without written records. This raises another fascinating possibility. Could the Ramayana preserve memories of real people, real kingdoms, or real conflicts that gradually became woven into an epic narrative over hundreds of years? Many historians consider that a reasonable hypothesis. Others remain unconvinced, and that difference of opinion is exactly what keeps this mystery alive. The mysteries don't stop there. Who exactly were the Vanar? Traditional art portrays them as monkey-like beings, but some researchers have proposed that the word may have referred to forest tribes whose symbols or identities were associated with animals. There is no consensus, and the evidence remains inconclusive. Then there is Ravana. Unlike many villains in ancient literature, he is portrayed as remarkably complex. He is described as a learned scholar, an accomplished musician, a master of sacred knowledge, and a devoted worshipper of Bhagwan Shiva. His downfall comes not from a lack of intelligence, but from pride. That complexity is one reason the Ramayana continues to resonate across cultures. Even its antagonist is deeply human. Another surprising fact is that there is no single Ramayana. Across the centuries, hundreds of versions emerged. The Ramacharitamanus of Goswami Tulsidas became one of the most beloved retellings in North India. The Tamil Kumbh Ramayana introduced its own literary richness. Jain traditions reimagined key events. Buddhist texts presented different perspectives. Across Southeast Asia, local cultures adapted the story while preserving its essential themes. Despite these differences, one message remains remarkably consistent: duty before personal gain, truth before power, compassion before hatred. These ideas may be one of the greatest reasons the Ramayana has endured for so long. So, after exploring the geography, the bridge, the stars, the archaeology, and centuries of scholarship, what can we honestly conclude? The first conclusion is beyond dispute. The Ramayana is one of humanity's most influential works of literature. Its impact on philosophy, ethics, art, architecture, and civilization is extraordinary. Its cultural legacy is visible not only across India, but throughout much of Asia. The second conclusion requires equal honesty. Using the standards of modern historical research, there is currently no conclusive evidence proving that every event of the Ramayana occurred exactly as described. Likewise, there is no conclusive evidence proving that the story is entirely fictional. Instead, we find something far more intriguing: real places, ancient traditions, living cultural memory, geological formations that inspire debate, historical questions that remain unanswered. Perhaps that uncertainty is not a weakness. Perhaps it is exactly why the Ramayana continues to inspire discussion after thousands of years. History is not always black and white. Sometimes it exists in shades of possibility. Sometimes archaeology speaks clearly. Sometimes it remains silent. And sometimes stories preserve truths that cannot be measured only by excavation or inscription. Whether you believe Sri Ram walked these lands exactly as described, whether you see the epic as sacred history, or whether you view it as a masterpiece built upon ancient memories, one fact is impossible to deny. For more than 2 millennia, the Ramayana has shaped the imagination, values, and identity of countless generations. Very few stories in human history have left such a profound mark on civilization. And perhaps the greatest mystery was never whether the Ramayana happened exactly as written. Perhaps the greater mystery is how one story became powerful enough to outlive kingdoms, empires, languages, and even the people who first told it. Some mysteries are solved by discovering new evidence. Others continue to inspire us because they remind us how much of the ancient world still waits to be understood. The Ramayana belongs to the second kind. Its questions remain alive, its lessons remain timeless, and its mystery continues to invite every generation to search a little deeper. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of history's greatest epics. If you enjoyed this exploration, subscribe to The Tales of Lost Glory, where every documentary uncovers another forgotten chapter of our ancient past. Until our next journey. Keep asking questions, keep following the evidence, and keep exploring the tales of lost glory.